It's been almost a week since Tarkov Arena launched, and if you're one of the lucky few who's gotten access to it, you may have loaded up the game extremely hyped only to then quickly be frustrated and then very disappointed. I don't know if the tagline "Esports Ready" is just a community meme at this point or something Battlestate Games actually believes, but this game is in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to being a competitive esports, and the fact that we have players actually signing to esports teams for this game at this point is absolutely hilarious to me. But it's not just the competitive aspect of Tarkov Arena that's the problem. It's the loadouts, the progression system, matchmaking, elo. It's just honestly so impressive how they managed to make every single wrong decision when developing this game. In this video, we're going to go over the good and the bad, but also compare Tarkov Arena to not only a few successful esports games, but also just games that have grindy progression systems, since for whatever reason, it appears that the Tarkov developers took 15 years of game development and threw all that knowledge straight into the trash. It's unfortunate, since at the very core of the game, Arena is pretty fun. If you like team play, if you like quick arena shooters, and you like Tarkov and those hardcore in-depth weapon handling, ballistics, armor, and medical systems, there are still moments where you can have extremely rewarding firefights and some really fun rounds. It's just that there's so much garbage around it, it just makes for an overall really tough experience to enjoy. So with that, let's start off with the good. Firstly, Tarkov Arena is, at its core, Tarkov. And what I mean by that is, in the normal game, you can spend hours in menus working on your hideout, roaming around the map, doing quests, or taking pot shots at AI scavs. But then there's that once every raid or two where you can find yourself in a pretty insane firefight. These firefights are intense, and although part of it is due to the fact that if you die, you will lose everything you brought into the raid, the real pucker factor is that one stray round hitting an unprotected part of your body can result in fractures, heavy bleeds, and even do so much damage that you'll be left gasping for air, unable to hold your rifle down properly, or limping yourself to extract. Arena gets rid of all the frills, and you get the essence of Tarkov firefights. You get all of these moments, all of these crazy shootouts all of the time, and although you can slow it down a bit, matches in general are pretty quick and the action is intense. Some rounds you'll get into firefights that are clean, but you'll also have others where you'll have to hobble off into a corner just to put your life back together. And that is genuinely fun, especially if you have a team that works together and has a variety of kits to support each other. The 5v5 game mode is incredibly fun, and the maps are actually designed pretty well. They each have that Tarkov theme to them and give you plenty of flanking areas, CQB zones, and even longer range sniper views. The transition from team elimination to then capture the objective makes it very important to not just go for kills, but then make sure you have map control. After that first timer ends, and since you only have a 7-second capture time, a team that isn't paying attention to the map can ultimately lose despite having more kills, which adds another layer of teamwork and skill to the game. Still haven't captured the objective, and now you have AI scavs that come out and try to clean you up. Learning the map and trying to pull off certain rollouts with your team, cover objective areas, get zonal control, all of that stuff really makes me want to play more and learn more. Throw in that Tarkov hardcore gunplay and medical system, and I'm sold. When it works and you're working with your team, the game itself is very, very fun. But unfortunately, that's about all I can say with confidence is good about Tarkov Arena. And since this is a pretty long video, that is not great. So let's move on to the problems with this game. In order to actually play Arena, you need to select your kit, and these kits are divided up into various archetypes: Assault, CQB, Scout, and Marksman. Each one has progression, kind of like a War Thunder tech tree, and playing a certain kit will earn experience towards the next one down the line. But it's incredibly basic. In War Thunder, you can pick a specific vehicle that you wish to research, and as you play your games, all of that experience from those games goes towards unlocking that one vehicle. At certain tiers, you'll stop earning experience for those higher tiered vehicles, meaning you can't just play this low-level Stuart for months on end, grinding it out and getting an Abrams. Instead, you'll need to periodically increase the tier that you're playing with in order to earn even better ones. This gives you the freedom to kind of play what you want for the most part, while still allowing progression that is dictated by you, the player. And at the end of the day, progression is primarily based on your own performance. If you do great and kill 10 tanks, well, you get a lot of experience even if your team loses. If you do poorly and your team wins, awesome, but you don't get much research towards that new tank you wanted. Tarkov Arena, on the other hand, is nothing like this. You pick a kit, play with it, and then after the game, it will automatically apply the experience you earned to the next kit in that line, which creates a lot of grinding. For example, if I want to unlock the Ratnik, I need to play the Guard despite both the Guard and Stargazer being on the same tier. However, strangely enough, if you pick a kit that is in the same progression line to play with, but not directly above the ones you haven't unlocked, you actually won't get any experience towards it. While progressing through the marksman tree, I played around with the Owl kit instead of Cowboy, and all of the experience I was going to get just disappeared instead of going towards the next kits, Echo and Sentry. Dude, it didn't give me an experience.
No.
Just like I deleted it or disappeared or something. This means players will no longer want to play potentially fun or more casual lower tier kits, and instead will always make them want to play the best kit if they want a chance to get that experience and progress through the tree. Additionally, as you progress, some of these kits have 2 unlocks below them, and the experience you earn is just simply dumped into both of these options, which I guess is kind of a good thing since you can unlock a variety of kits more quickly, but it just doesn't really make sense, and it feels more like an arbitrary system without much thought put into it by the devs. Furthermore, if you win or lose, you're going to have a vastly different amount of experience. I had a game where I topped the charts with double-digit kills, but as a team, we lost, and as a result, I only got a few thousand XP. The next round I did horrible, was last on my team with only a kill and an assist or 2 with the same exact kit, but I got double the experience I got from the previous round just because my team won. This can make solo queuing very frustrating since a team that knows each other and is playing with Discord comms is going to be that much better. Now, you would assume as you progressed further through the tech tree and got better kits, you would have better gear, and you would be right, but although that is true, there is a caveat to this. Tarkov isn't about your weapon, but more so it's about what ammo you're using plus what armor the enemy has. Now, you could honestly spend hours going through spreadsheets and breaking out ballistics calculators, but I'm not going to do that and instead use just a couple simple examples to explain this mechanic, since if you don't understand how ammo and armor works, it's almost impossible to really discuss why Tarkov Arena's progression is bad and is ultimately setting the game up not only for a future of competitive problems and constant balance patches, but it's just ruining the gameplay loop for a lot of the casual everyday players. For this very simple example, I'm using the Battle Buddy mobile app, which is free and you can find it on the app stores, and it helps calculate penetration values. And here we have a P.A.K.A., which is a level 2 body armor with 50 durability. For the ammo, I'm using a 545 US round, which has 15 penetration. If the body armor is full durability, this round will only penetrate and do damage to the player roughly 39% of the time. If the round doesn't penetrate, the player isn't hurt, and instead that damage will be done to the armor, reducing its durability, and as you can see, making it easier to penetrate. High durability armor, harder to penetrate. Low durability might not even be worth it. And as you can see here, a P.A.K.A. with 10 durability is practically useless, allowing the round to penetrate almost every single time. However, if you have, let's say, a level 4 armor like this 6B23-2, these same exact rounds will just simply not work. You have 0% chance of penetrating through and damaging the body parts. Once again, this is a very simple explanation. If you'd like to learn more about ballistics, penetration, ammo, armor values, and all that stuff, there are hundreds of videos and websites to learn from, which I encourage you to search out. But the problem that Tarkov Arena runs into is that unlike Escape from Tarkov, where you can build your kits, you can pick your ammo and armor, and then you can find a good combination that works for your playstyle, maybe flank around, lay down and just wait, or try to ambush and push up for close quarters combat, you are instead forced to use presets that the devs have crafted themselves, and they are really not balanced at all. Guard, a tier 1 assault preset, has the level 4 6B23-2 armor that we were just looking at. Now, although it does have only 27 durability, this will still prevent the Attic, Merca, Plantain, Chapushilo, and even the guard himself from penetrating that armor reliably, with only 3 kits, the Owl, Stargazer, and Handler having a 50-50 shot of going through and hitting the player. This gets even worse when you look at how unbalanced and overpowered the kits are the further down the tiers you get. For example, one of my first games as a new player, I picked the Tier 1 CQB kit and was matched with players who had the Tier 3 CQB kits. Not only did my ammo not have the ability to penetrate their body armor, but they had both a helmet and a face shield that practically negated all of my rounds as well. The only way I could possibly kill them would be to go for limb shots or mag dump their armor to reduce its durability and just hope RNG loves me. But my weapon was a semi-auto rifle with no buttstock, so that was almost impossible to do. The Tier 3 kit, on the other hand, he had a full auto M4 with basically no recoil and 100 round magazines. As a Tier 1 CQB player, I have no chance against this guy, but when I played as the Tier 1 Marksman kit and I had a different weapon with a different ammo combination, I could sit back and penetrate straight through their helmet and kill them from afar, which makes complete sense. But the issue boils down to, you simply can't do that. You can't just swap presets mid-round for whatever reason, and the moment you press buy in the main screen and select that CQB Tier 1 kit, that's it. As my daughter says, you get what you get and you don't throw fits. Honestly, I've been throwing a lot of fits right here. At the start of every match, you are locked into this preset, so if you have happened to have picked scissors and the enemy team picked rock, you're going to lose almost every single time. Of course, you can beat players with better weapons and better armor than what you have, but it's almost impossible from the get-go, and unlike Escape from Tarkov, you don't have the time and map coverage to position yourself in ways that will always work for your specific preset. It's like if in Overwatch you were fighting against an enemy Widowmaker and you couldn't swap to a flanker hero next round to disrupt their sniper play. Or maybe you're playing War Thunder as a tank destroyer and you find out the enemy has a dive bomber plane, but you're prevented from selecting your anti-air vehicle. You just have to let the other guys win the fight every time until the game is over, and that's really not engaging gameplay at all. The devs, for whatever reason, have forced players to spend 15 minutes trying to make scissors beat rock, and it creates a very, very negative gameplay loop. And maybe if you've been wrecked a couple games by this one kit and you say, hey, let's try going down a different tech tree, well, the system kind of removes any ability to easily swap progression trees. Many players are suggesting it's actually easier to simply buy a completely new version of the game and make that your own CQB or Marksman account instead of trying to regrind less progressed tiers, because you'll be playing Tier 1 equipment but at a higher ranking, which will match you up to Tier 3, 4, 5 equipment since the players can just select the best gear for them. And this is where matchmaking comes into play. When you go to play this game, you either choose the 2v2 shootout or the 5v5 teamfight modes. And once you are selected, you're matched up with players within your arena ranking. Yes, you are not matched up by the gear score that is plastered all over your presets, but instead you are matched up by your ranking. And as an aside real quick, even if you are matched up by your gear score, what do these numbers even mean? Obviously the higher number the better the gear, but is that really true? If we compare Owl and Cowboy, we can see that there is a 75-point difference between both presets, so Cowboy is better, right? Well, although they both use different weapons, they both use the same ammo, so is the M1A actually that much better than the Vepr Hunter? Realistically, this may just come down to personal preference on which weapon you like, but the penetration chance is still the same, and if you also take into consideration the rest of the kit, there's a really good argument that the Owl is actually better and should be ranked higher since you actually get a P.A.K.A. for your body armor and the Cowboy gets nothing. But maybe the devs think that giving you a double action revolver with 357 Magnum is worth the extra boost. Or maybe it's because you can stop your heavy bleed in 3 seconds instead of 5. These ratings make even less sense the further you go down, with the 578 ranked Ajax being able to full auto shred through level 5 armor and have 5-minute painkillers with strength stems, while the 572 split has only a 1% chance to penetrate that exact same body armor. Since the Ajax Mark 16 can shoot straight through this face shield and helmet anyway, does it even matter that Split has one? How did they rank these, and how can these even be remotely on the same level? Even if the devs were to implement matchmaking based on this gear score, fundamentally it's just broken and doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, a player that has grinded more weapons than you can just automatically beat you by picking the better arbitrary gear score preset if they're still in your arena bracket, because that's all that will dictate who you'll be fighting. And to be honest, it's going to be very hard to leave this ranking bracket. There are 9 separate ranks, ranging from the lowest skilled players at Marauder all the way up to the highest skilled elites. And at the time of this recording, the highest ranked player is in the mid 3000s, and that's really just because this elo system is completely horrible. If you win a game in Tarkov Arena, you get plus 25 arena points. If you lose a game, you get minus 25 arena points. It doesn't matter what arena ranking you were or the other team is, you will always just get adjusted by a flat 25. To compare this to other competitive games, elo is typically very flexible, and higher skilled players go through a placement session in order to put them in the right spot from the get-go. This is something that the original Overwatch ranked mode had in 2016. You had 10 placement matches, you were given a rank based on the performance during those matches, and then depending on the quality of your opponents, you could potentially gain a lot of elo for wins, or maybe even just lose very little. It rewards your performance as well as your team's performance. And although there are flaws with any system, this has kind of been perfected over the course of nearly a decade by multiple competitive games, from FPSs to MOBAs. Tarkov saw all this work on elo systems and took absolutely nothing away from it. A team that has all the best gear can just straight up win 5-0 easy games and get 25 elo, even though that maybe the competition in that round wasn't really at the quality that should reward them a full 25 elo. And if we're being honest, this is a very gear heavy rating, meaning that the better the gear, the better your rating will trend. And although games like Counter-Strike will have teams that maybe eventually have better gear and then win the rounds, you actually have to earn that gear throughout the game. Every player starts on the same level playing field, and then through a buy phase where they can choose what to get, as well as getting more money for future buy phases based on their round performance, they can, through multiple rounds, get that higher quality gear. Fundamentally, that is skill-based, and it's rewarding you on the skill that you have in this game that you're playing right now. Tarkov Arena is nothing like that, and is rewarding players that grinded or did things outside of the current matchup that you're in. Additionally, this gear you have will be compounded by your own player skills, and if the devs get their way, they want these skills to be carried over from the base Escape from Tarkov game and your own player's progression in that completely separate game. This means that if you go and spend a whole bunch of time in raid and Tarkov, you fire your weapons a lot, you heal a lot, it's easier for you to handle recoil and heal, well, you're gonna better perform in Arena. Although this may seem minor now with only 1% gains in some areas, there is a huge disparity between things like strength, with max level allowing you plus 20% sprint speed, plus 20% throwing distance, and even plus 20% jumping height. There is a very real future where players who go in raid and level strength by walking around for hours on end with overstuffed backpacks will be able to just be straight better than you or have less recoil with the same exact weapon that you have right now in a 5v5 competitive ranked arena shooter. This makes absolutely no sense and will make an even wider gap in the kit disparity. When you put all of this together, you get a game that just isn't balanced, and it will continue to get worse as time goes on. Just a few days after release, they made a balance patch, and as I was editing this video, they made a second balance patch. These updates have already changed 12 presets. They made 5 changes to different ammo types, they made 6 magazine or other ammo capacity changes, they adjusted 4 different body armors, made 4 different weapon attachment changes, changed 4 different medical gear, and also removed a grenade. This is like 5 days in. The problem with having all of these presets is that they will now all have to be balanced against each other every single time one thing changes. A simple change like swapping ammo or body armors will have a carry-on ripple effect to the performance of other presets. And in talking about this, I haven't even touched on the medical system where some kits don't even have the ability to stop bleeding. Some stims even allow you to ignore all pain and have crazy boosts. This is going to be a never-ending cycle. Not only are these presets causing issues with unbalanced and unfun games now, but they're going to create a lot of ongoing balance headaches in the future. Ultimately, the root of all of these problems is the developers' insistence on presets, and as this user suggested on the Escape from Tarkov subreddit, many players actually thought that a buy phase like Counter-Strike was going to be the way the game was designed. Adding a quick selection for ammo, maybe even have the player start with basic meds and the option to buy more, and there you go. But there's a second method in which the devs could have learned from and then implemented in the game, and that is the Call of Duty way. In Call of Duty, you have a set amount of weapons, attachments, other gear, and perks that you have to mix and match in order to create a loadout. These loadouts have essentially point restrictions, and you can't just have the best of everything because you will run out of points. This could easily be implemented in Tarkov, and the devs could restrict the amount of weapon attachments or ammo that you can choose from, increase certain point levels for very expensive stuff, and allow you to have pros and cons in order to build your kit. Combine that with potentially a buy phase, allowing you to get your meds or other gear like grenades, smokes, flashbangs, and you can have a combined system that allows the devs to not micromanage the kits, but also gives more flexibility and Tarkovness for the players. Escape from Tarkov itself allows you to go to your stash, go to the flea market, build your kits, and essentially prep a loadout, so having that in Arena makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, unless some big changes are to be made, it appears that the devs are dead set on these presets. And that tied in with your player progression being unable to be matched with players who have your same gear levels and inability to adjust your own loadouts mid-round, this will remove any semblance of competitive gameplay in the future. There is also a dangerous precedent for exclusive pay-to-win kits as players who purchase EOD receive the Rizzy preset. And although this is not a crazy good kit right now, it does give you 10% more cash when you play. Not unlike the War Thunder premiums, which cost very real money and give you research and currency bonuses as well. It's not unlikely that this whole progression method was created to sell certain presets to generate revenue on top of this already $40 game. And you know what really bugs me is that this isn't even all the problems. Matchmaking is horrible, and once you find a match, you have to press accept and then wait until everyone else accepts, but if somebody missed it, since you don't really get a big pop-up notification, you get thrown back to the start of matchmaking. Sometimes the servers just stop working, and I spent nearly 10 minutes in matchmaking only to finally get a game, someone disconnected at the start, and then it threw us all back into matchmaking where I eventually errored out and was kicked to the main menu. Nearly 20 minutes of searching for players, and I end up with nothing. Once you are matched up with the players, you still have to find a server, and if it takes a while, you're just stuck in this perpetual loop, even if you Alt F4 and quit out of the game. Restarting the game puts you right back into that queue. There's no escaping from Tarkov Arena. One day it took so long, we even had a full-on conversation on Middle-earth and Hobbits while we waited for one single match.
No, Hobbits are like 3'5" or something.
This man out here dropping Hobbit knowledge on me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull up the RPG book and see how tall they say hobbits.
I don't think hobbits are that short. That's like
I'm gonna
gnome
say-
level.
No, I think it is. I think it's like 3.5. Tolkien describes hobbits as between 2 and 4 feet. But the
There you
average
go.
height being 3 feet 6 inches.
If a hobbit is 3.5, what's a gnome?
Gnomes aren't in Middle Earth.
Yeah, I don't think gnomes exist anymore.
In Middle Earth,
I think a
role
hobbit
playing,
is a
you can
version
play
of
a hobbit, an Umli, a dwarf, a woz, a man, a Dunedain, half elf, Sylvan elf, Sind elf, Noldo elf, half orc, Uruk-hai, half troll, or Olog-hai. Those are your available.
Uruk-hai. That's what I'd pick, Uruk-hai.
Additionally, when you are in game, all these players look exactly the same due to the player preset, so you'll have to pay attention to their armbands. But unlike every other game in the world, friendlies are not default blue and enemies are not default red. So sometimes you're blue, sometimes you're red, and sometimes you forget and kill your buddy or you think an enemy is your friend. Also, the audio just doesn't seem to work at times. There are moments where I have people creep up on me that I just can't hear, but in the kill cam or if you're in a spectator cam, you can hear them loud and clear. You can report players for all sorts of things, but not team killing or griefing. And since you can fire your weapons in your spawn, you have people that, well, they just do that. Also, if you really want to screw your team over, you can just exit the match and everyone will get no experience or rating from it. And you'll only be punished with a 15-minute timer while your abandoned match ban wears off. Oh, and did you also know that there's one map where you can actually jump out of the spawn area in order to get a head start? I want to really like Tarkov Arena because the firefights are what I love about Tarkov. They're gritty, it's tough, and they can be incredibly rewarding. But the systems Battlestate Games have built around the actual gameplay in Arena is so bad that it makes it an absolute chore to just try and enjoy. The biggest issue is that there is nothing like this in gaming right now. There is no Tarkov-like arena shooter with this gunplay, and the thousands of players who like the Tarkov weapon mechanics will begrudgingly put up with whatever future horrible decisions the devs make because, well, they have no other option. I'm not saying you can't have fun in Tarkov Arena. There is plenty of fun to be had, and I have had it. But it comes with so much baggage that it will drive casual players crazy and make competitive events, gear checks, or just rock, paper, scissors competitions, which is ultimately not very enjoyable. There is a future for this game, but in order for that to be a successful future, the devs need to take a hard look at why other competitive and progression-based games succeeded. The gaming industry is built on lessons learned and iterating off past success, and unless Battlestate Games do that with Arena, this thing is going to be dead in the water and an incredibly niche Twitch shooter to pass the time between Tarkov wipes. And to those who say that this is just a playtest or this is just a beta phase, we'll wait to see. No, okay, betas and playtests are typically to fix minor issues or find big game-breaking bugs or server problems. A playtest is not where you completely overhaul your gameplay and progression loop. In my opinion, Tarkov Arena needs to go back to the drawing board because whatever this is not it. But in saying that, what do you guys think? Am I crazy? Am I right in line? And can you even see yourself playing this 6 months from now? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.